Okay, guys, so I just got back from vacation. I was like 3, 4 days into it. I get tagged in my Discord from one of my moderators, Mel the Man, who is absolutely the man. He let me know that I actually had 2 levels that were taken down while I was off on vacation. Additionally, he let me know that all of the likes had been removed from all of my levels on Mario Maker 2, which I thought was very interesting, which I wasn't going to deal with right then because I'm off on vacation. But that said it that I would have to call Nintendo Monday morning and try and figure out what's going on. I was told that I could go and remake those 2 levels and they shouldn't actually break any rules, but that they could get taken down and I should call them back if that happened. So, I did so. If you haven't watched part 1 or part 2 yet and you're coming in right now on part 3, you're totally welcome to just watch this, but I recommend going and watching them for full general information on what's going on. Uh, Part 1 primarily goes over the topic of the levels being removed in my first call to Nintendo and what I learned from that. And part 2 goes over kind of further community impact as well as the exact mechanics of how the jump works. And it goes into my thoughts of why the levels could have been being removed for potentially including the jump or whatnot. Before we dive into part 3, I do just want to say there's been a huge amount of support from the community towards me and the entire situation, as well as all of Team Precision. It's fantastic. You guys are absolutely awesome. Maybe we'll try and grow this channel and see what happens. With that, I have added some Amazon affiliate links for anyone that wants to support in that way. That does exist for you. You're not obligated to, it just exists. If you want it, I've added the sleeping Pokemon plushies that a lot of people were commenting on. There's links to that, as well as Pikachu up there that is ominously watching you in the background always. Intro out of the way, let's go into part 3. I've opened up the door for the cats. We're done with the intro. They're going to start barraging their way into here and taking space. So just enjoy them throughout the video. I don't control them, and they'll be mad if they get locked out. So I called Nintendo again. I will say that I do have the transcripts of the conversations with each interaction with Nintendo of the ones that happened on Monday, so yesterday, but I will not be including any recordings or exact transcripts of that. That would borderline breach their TOS and could get the videos taken down, which is something that none of us want to occur, so I'm just going to be summarizing, which is fair use. Okay, so I got to talk to 4 different Nintendo employees. One of them was not even more than 30 seconds. One of them was upwards of like an hour and 15 minutes. We'll get into all of them, but the fourth one's a surprise for the end, which I was really happy to talk to him. Let's get into our first representative, Ryan. Ryan was not exactly helpful for almost the entire conversation. That was the longest conversation. It was about an hour and 15 minutes. I probably could have just hung up, but I was interested to see where the conversation went, if that makes sense. But he was mostly just reading scripts throughout the entire time, didn't really give exact information, and the information that he did give me wasn't correct to the different situations we were talking about. So the Ryan conversation, not great. But let's get into the exact details. A big point that Ryan was making, which Ryan introduced himself as a supervisor. So there is some authority behind what Ryan has to say. Ryan insinuated that the levels were removed for advertising violations, citing a report to the levels for that issue. The problem, though, is that the levels that were taken down did not include any advertising. I did clarify repeatedly throughout that there was no advertising, citing the names, the descriptions, any comments. Because nothing in the levels has advertising, it makes it a false claim. With that, Ryan acknowledged no specific violations in the levels themselves, but he did double down on the unrelated advertising topic, which was not great. He wasn't very helpful, and I suppose I did make it clear from the start that hey man, I appreciate you trying to help me, but I don't think you're going to be able to help with the situation that I'm having here, and I just wanted to get back to the first representative that I talked to, which was Aaron. But he refused to transfer. He said that right now I'm talking to the higher department. And then he said the high department. At another point he said the highest department. He was making it very clear that I was talking to the high department. He also, multiple times, made it very clear that he was a supervisor. At some point, I joked and asked, well, can I talk to your supervisor? Which I think is a very Karen thing to say, and I think is funny. But He said, I am the supervisor. There's no supervisors above me. And I thought that's really funny because we all know that's not the case. That is inexplicably, that's wrong. That is not the case. Nintendo is supervisors all the way up. Tier 1 rep that I call, you are not the supervisor. Well, maybe you are, but I think based on what I was hearing, that they're not. So I did try and get Ryan to break script. I tried to go and talk to him about the actual buffer jumps and how the buffer system works in in Mario. That it's been a core thing since Mario 3. Ryan kind of dismissed all of this, stating that he could only really reference the advertising report, which wasn't exactly helpful. I did point out to Ryan, the supervisor, that a previous supervisor that I had spoke to, they let me know that I was good to remake and re-upload those levels. So he kind of just ignored this and then ended up saying that the previous advisor that I talked to had given me incorrect expectations, but Ryan himself offered no solution to the problem. In the end, important takeaways from the call with Ryan is that he refused to escalate or transfer the call in any way. He would only let me speak to him. He promised to document and feedback, but then ended up abruptly ending the call due to having to deal with other calls. He provided no actionable steps to address the false removal, while also still he did affirm that they did not have advertising in them, which was the reason. But he says a separate team handles any kinds of reports and things that are removed and goes to verify and check why they're removed. So he's saying he doesn't see the advertising in it that he's claiming is there, but that's a different team to handle it. I will say that at a certain point, the phone call did abruptly disconnect while I was talking to Ryan, but he did call me back. In the time where it was disconnected, I tried to call back myself. I ended up reaching someone named Justin. Justin introduced himself to me as a supervisor, so it was very nice to get to reach two supervisors in a row. In the end, I really didn't get any help from Ryan at all, honestly. I think that there are some things that get highlighted from this first interaction, which was that the support team generally lacks the knowledge about the game or product that they're talking about, and kind of just defaults to generic scripts that are either looked up online in some kind of database or something, and that's really all they're going to go off of, and then any reports to your account. It's not actually addressing the specific issue that has incurred any kind of infraction. There is the not great part that was occurring, which was kind of a misattributed violation with the advertisement of a different level. It's awkward that that's being used to justify a takedown. I think they were just kind of looking for literally any reason that it could have gotten removed, and they got stuck on that, which, interestingly, back a couple weeks ago when we did part 1, when we talked to, I think their name was Aurelia or Aurelius, something like that, when we talked to them, they had made it clear that they were a supervisor, by the way, just for reference. They said they're a supervisor. They had made it clear the same thing, that it was removed for advertising. So I think that they're just trying to look for any kind of reports whatsoever, and then they're just going to tell you what that is, and then hope that that answer suffices, regardless of if it actually does. It's not great that in the conversation, Ryan ended up becoming a dead end. He basically claimed to be the ceiling of Nintendo support. Like, I'm as high as it goes. I am the highest. There's no further escalation paths offered, and that's just not great. I could go into it deeper, but realistically, if he is, hypothetically, let's say he's a supervisor, right? He's the one in charge. He's the one that's knowledgeable. The problem is that he's not knowledgeable. The problem is that he didn't know what he was talking about. And I understand not everyone's going to know what they're talking about, but if you're addressing yourself as a supervisor and offering no path to get to someone who knows what they're talking about, then you need to know what you're talking about. You can't not, because then you're not doing your job properly, and then you're going to leave someone else feeling dissatisfied because they weren't able to actually get an answer to what they were calling about. I don't know if we're gonna do a grading system here, but I'm giving like an F to Ryan. It was like an A plus on following a script, but the script wasn't helpful in the least bit. So that wasn't great. Interestingly as well, this is I think it's, if I were to guess, I think they have two separate or more support centers, and I think that one of them draws out from, I'm gonna use maybe it's like an Indian call center or something, because Ryan had a very Indian accent, as well as Justin had a very Indian accent, and you could hear loudly people in the background also very call center esque, how they were, you could hear it, right? But with the conversations with Aaron, it did not sound the same. There was no background noise. It was clear, concise. It was maybe someone who has their own room, if you will, and who was generally knowledgeable about the topic. So I'm assuming you kind of got to get lucky and end up in the right call center to actually get assistance. Okay, so I'm feeling a bit disheartened after this call with Ryan. I don't think I'm going to get anywhere at this point, which is unfortunate, especially considering the circumstance that I was told to call back. And I was told I'd be able to get to someone, but I just wasn't. So I gave it 20 minutes. I was hoping that Ryan would end up on a call and I wouldn't get right back to Ryan. Don't worry, I didn't. I met Carl. Carl was great. Carl's a saint. Oh my god, do we love Carl. So Carl reviewed the entirety of my account. He let me know about the past violation of advertising with the Twitch link, but he did explicitly say that it was unrelated and it was 4+ years old, so there was no way it was involved. He was generally knowledgeable about the buffer system in terms of jumping in the games, as well as he was aware of buffer jumps as something that exists in other games, in the mechanic that it is a reduced height jump. It was really awesome how knowledgeable Carl was in this general topic. He was wonderful. I had a bit of a conversation with Carl on the different things that I thought could be involved with levels being taken down. Maybe the setup for the buffer jump being viewed as a bug, or potentially mass reporting or bad actors reporting things as bugs. Mind you, I don't necessarily think that the bad actors thing is what occurred, because I don't think the re-upload of Heroic Plumber had a ton of plays. I can't say because I really didn't look at it since I uploaded it, but I don't think it had a lot. As well as I suggested maybe there was some kind of system changes with going into the Switch 2, maybe that changed how or what things get flagged in their system. Not entirely sure. So Carl went to go and actually draft up a formal maybe email or letter or something. He went through his channels to talk to the dev teams in Japan. That's what he said. He was going to be messaging their colleagues that are in Japan, and that it may take a few days because of language barriers, which I'm going to trust that Carl was being real because he seemed very sincere. Carl and I had some good conversations. He had knowledge about Team Precision. He had knowledge about Team 0%. He even went to talk about the controversy that happened with trimming the herbs and completing Mario Maker 1. He was generally pretty knowledgeable, and we talked about like games a bit. I guess he speedran Pokemon Red is like his game with a PB of 1 hour, 58 minutes, 52 seconds. Carl, great. Ryan will get there. Carl, great. So, information being passed along to Nintendo devs, according to him, in Japan. And I'm expecting a few days wait. That's progress. That's actually progress. I expected to absolutely get nothing. To get no information and to get pushed off to the side, like Ryan did. But we have Carl, and Carl's precious, and we love Carl, and oh my god. Let's get into a bit of the takeaways from Carl. So, he escalated the situation, the case, up to Nintendo's dev team in Japan for investigation. That's wonderful. I'm told that I will get a follow-up. Also absolutely wonderful. Who gets a call back from Nintendo to get information going forward on their case? Oh my god, I love you, Carl. Which he also noted in there that he was going to try to make sure to be the one that called me back. And for him to make that effort is fantastic. Mind you, there's systems in place that he kind of explained that he doesn't know how they all work. He can't guarantee he's going to be the one that gets to call me back, but he's going to note that I would like for it to be, and he'll try to be the person that gives me the call back on the situation. Bit of the takeaway in the Carl conversation. So it seemed like he basically confirmed that the buffer system and buffer jumps are generally intentional mechanics to how Mario works or functions, the physics of it all. Carl wasn't able to give me any information on why the levels were taken down. I did suggest possible reasons, but he couldn't make it clear of any kind of, oh yeah, it's probably that, or anything like that. Which I think that that's just a baseline of they are not allowed to because they don't want to set expectations for the consumer, right? One thing that I did make sure to go over when I talked to Carl is that a lot of levels with Team Precision were affected that did not have the buffer jump. And talking about the greater communities impacted by this. So it sounds like it's generally being taken seriously. But what do I know? The information that I got sounded like things are being passed up, and that at least feels heard, which feels great for someone trying to get something solved. And that was it. I had talked to Brian. He introduced himself as a supervisor, hung up at some point through, and then I ended up talking to Justin for a brief period before talking to Ryan again, and then I talked to Carl. I thought that was that, and I was going to record my summary of the events. It's what I thought was going to happen. Then I saw that I had an email from about 2 hours afterwards from a Derek C. or Derek K. It was someone with Nintendo. Or at least that's what it says. It's Nintendo customer support. So I received the email that was titled, Regarding Your Recent Contact with Nintendo, and it gave me an incident number. With it, it said, recently you requested assistance from our support center. Below is a summary of your request and response. Please visit our customer support page to get answers to all your support questions. It gave me a callback number as well as additional information. I had to think to myself, so either this is from the conversation with one of three people, right? This is either from Ryan over there, from Carl over here, or from Justin, who I talked to for like 30 seconds, then he left. And I figure if I'm talking to Ryan topic again, I'm probably not getting helped. Maybe I am, but I'll call just to make sure. If it's a follow-up on the Carl situation after 2 hours, that's crazy. I want in. I want to hear about whatever this phone call is. Justin out in Narnia over there, I'm sure they were just, if that's the case, just calling to see what I called about. But I called back. And do you know whose voice I hear on the other end of the line? I was so delighted. I was so happy inside to hear Aaron. To hear Aaron, which was the person that I talked to 2 or 3 weeks prior that was trying to help me with the situation. That was the first helpful Nintendo representative, the Tier 3 guy. We got to talk to Aaron again. Aaron and I exchanged pleasantries, and we went over a few topics. I went over some of the additional knowledge that I had learned since we last spoke, the greater community impact with Team Precision and other people having levels removed, as well as things getting removed that don't actually have buffer jumps. It was generally really nice to lay it all on the table to someone who explicitly said they're taking it all down to send it in over to the devs. So now I've got, hypothetically, 2 people that are sending things off to the dev team to get this looked into. Additionally, with the 2 levels that were taken down, Aaron wanted to know the specifics of what the level codes for them were. The names for them weren't generally helpful. He specifically needed the level codes as well as he needed my maker ID. So I'm assuming he was trying to look into exact details or be able to provide exact details to levels removed for the dev teams in Japan. I'm realizing afterwards that maybe I could have found some way to get Aaron, and then from there go and give him the Google document sheet of all of the Team Precision levels that got taken down. But he was specifically asking for my levels that got taken down in my maker ID. So I suppose maybe that wouldn't have been helpful information for him, or maybe it would. That's speculation to be had. We went over the penalty to my account, the levels that were deleted, as well as all the likes that were removed. He reaffirmed that he himself cannot add those likes or feedback back on levels, which I wasn't necessarily pushing for, and I don't expect that it could occur. I was kind of just questioning if it could, and he confirmed that it couldn't. I was kind of caught off guard because when I was talking to Aaron about the topic of the buffer jump and explaining how it works and mechanics, he had said that he is actually pretty knowledgeable about it because it was a technique that he had to implement when he was speedrunning Super Mario 3. I guess he used to do wrong warp and any percent other stuff. It was great to have someone knowledgeable about exactly what I wanted to talk about. Oh my god. I don't know if he watched the video. I don't know if Carl watched the video. I'm going to assume they haven't. But I will say that Aaron did seem a little more guarded on how he wanted to approach or talk about subjects. So I think that he was being very careful with his words, so maybe he did watch the video, and that's totally fine. I think he just didn't want to make any kind of speculations. One thing that he did say is he doesn't want to speak in terms of any kind of hypothesis because he doesn't want to set any kind of incorrect expectations or mindset about what exactly is or isn't going on. So I think that's great, honestly. Because if he were making a bunch of speculations of, oh, I think that it got removed because of the reports to the level. If he were to do that, then it is going to lead me to think exactly that when he doesn't necessarily know what's going on. It's better for him to explicitly say that. Aaron and I did make sure to talk about the other levels in Team Precision that got removed that did not have the buffer jump, so it did make it clear that there is potentially something further outside going on of why levels are getting removed. So it's really cool to see that they're actually taking all of this in, and maybe they're going to actually do something with it. I think it's unlikely because, like, what are the odds that one guy out here reaching out to Nintendo to try and get information is going to get information? I don't think so, but maybe, right? And apparently, there's two people reaching out to devs on this situation to try and deal with it. And I think that's lovely. So, in his words, Aaron escalated this issue to Nintendo's back office, and at one point he did say dev team. But I'm assuming back office is just another, let's say, term for dev team. But maybe not. There could be, different departments, if you will. Kind of an investigation over the different topics of maybe it's an flagging, or maybe it's something automatic, maybe it's report abuses, maybe it's the status of the buffer jump setup being a bug, so maybe it's getting removed for that. But I got a time frame. Aaron said that he would get back to me in about 1 or 2 weeks. So that is longer than the wait period for Carl, which is about 2 or 3 days. But I think that it's more realistic that the Carl conversation could end up into a 1 or 2 weeks. I think that, of my speculation, Carl was probably a bit more generous with the speed of service. And I trust that Aaron's 1 to 2 weeks is probably more accurate to the situations. Aaron advised that I do not upload any more levels, regardless of if they have buffer jumps or anything. The idea is that I'm temporarily not uploading anything because he doesn't want anything to get flagged in the system and me to get any kind of worse offense to my account. So while they're sorting it out, I don't upload anything, and we're gonna get information, and then I should be good to going forward. It was nice listening to the transcript of the exact conversation because I didn't remember it. But at the end of the phone call, after I'd already hung up, I'm just sitting there like, oh God, I love talking to Aaron. He's so nice. He was very pleasant to talk to and generally very knowledgeable and very helpful. Oh my gosh. You win some, you lose some with the lottery, the RNG of trying to contact Nintendo customer support. You are throwing the dice and you're hoping to get like a nat 20 to get the correct representative that can actually help you with your situation. And I rolled the dice effectively 3 times yesterday, and I got 2 nat 20s. So maybe it's not a 1 in 20 chance, but oh my God, I got 2 nat 20s. Okay, this section right here is a bit of a introspective summary of everything that went on. Some people may think that I'm just rehashing everything that we kind of already went over, and some of it is, but it's good to actually take a step back and actually look at things once we're past the storytelling part of things. First thing, let's talk about the supervisors. Everyone that we talked to identified as a supervisor. We have Ryan, Carl, Aaron, Justin, and Aurelia. So that is 5 people that have claimed to be a supervisor and 0 people that didn't claim to be a supervisor. That is a kind of statistical implausibility. I think that's really unlikely that all these frontline agents are supervisor. I think this kind of suggests maybe some kind of inflation of titles. Maybe if they are saying that they're a supervisor, then they're kind of reassuring the public or showing some kind of authority to their role in it all, even if they don't actually have the knowledge or ability to help as someone else that might actually be a supervisor. I think that maybe a reason for this, besides just authority, is that maybe they're trying to discourage escalation. Because if you already think that you're talking to a supervisor, then you're not going to want to get escalated further because you're already talking to a supervisor. Why would you? It also, it I think avoids further questioning, because if they're the supervisor and they know what they're talking about, then why would you need to talk to someone else? They know what they're talking about. When evidently that's not the case, that becomes a problem. It kind of creates this illusion that you're talking to someone who has some kind of power to help in a situation, even when you actually haven't gotten to someone that can help you with the situation. I think it's some kind of customer deflection strategy. Maybe they're really high load bearing in terms of like how many people are reaching out to them. So if they can deflect a bunch of customers, then they don't have to invest their people that are knowledgeable on topics. But the problem is that it creates this wall, if you will, for anyone to get through that actually needs assistance, and then it damages a lot of trust that someone has in Nintendo or the person they're talking to. If the supervisor that you are talking to, Ryan, is very demonstrably uninformed or unhelpful in the topic, it's just not a great system. There's a very large gap that I think that we experience in terms of the knowledge base that each supervisor that we talked to had and how much they could help or what they were allowed to do, which I think that puts you in a situation where resolution to your problem specifically has to do with what agent is answering your phone. So you really are just like playing a slot machine, or like you're gambling, you're doing little scratchy cards or pull tabs, right? Now let's talk about the topic of, I suppose, what's a good word for this? I suppose like due process, if you will. Not that they have to be able to give a reason on why things are removed, but generally, if you're removing something, you should be able to if questioned. It seems almost like they claim that there's a team that is reviewing all these levels that are getting removed prior to it. But what is in effect actually happening is it seems to actually be an automated process that is flagging and removing levels. So I think that their claim for why things are getting removed just isn't quite right, or their processes of how removal works isn't quite right. It is unfortunate that we hit a situation where it removed not just the levels, but all of the likes and information for all of my other levels due to some kind of automated process removing levels that I was told I could make. That is a bit of a rough situation. I'm not mad or anything. It's a little strange that can't be undone, and that an automated process did that when I was explicitly told that I was allowed to do that. Interesting. And there doesn't appear to be any kind of appeal process, because Ryan can't do anything about it. Aurelius can't do anything about it. Aaron claimed that he could not do anything about it either. It's an entirely different team. Sorry, I'm almost quoting him here. I don't have notes in front of me, but I'm almost quoting him. It's a different team that handles anything involving appeals or getting anything like that reversed. And It is not a customer-facing team. It is not a team that anyone of the public can reach. It was explicitly stated, which I'm not surprised by that. I questioned and confirmed that because I assumed that to be the case. Broader conclusion here, supervisor appears to be a blanket term at Nintendo. It doesn't appear to mean anything, but some of them may actually be supervisors, such as Aaron. It wouldn't surprise me if he was a supervisor. Nintendo support appears to just be a lottery system that you're just going to hope that your number got picked, and if your number got picked, you're going to get help. Automation seems to kind of come before actual fairness towards people. It seems like false flags can just trigger things that are irreversible penalties, strikes, data deletion, things like that. And that kind of sucks on the side of anyone that has to be on the other side of it, right? Anyone that's on the receiving end of it, that's a little not great. Additionally, the support lacks any way, like I said, irreversible. Support appears to not be able to do anything about it themselves, which that doesn't really feel like support. It feels like support is just there to take the call, not to actually do anything to actually support or help the people. It seems like things are only being addressed because I reached the right people, which it's great that I reached the right people, but it's unfortunate that it takes as much effort as it does to find someone who's knowledgeable, and everyone else that you reach ignores any kind of technical evidence or other widespread impact and just looks at your account and why a level could have been deleted. It's not great. I think that their support could be excellent. Hypothetically. If you get someone like Aaron, it is excellent. If you get someone like Carl, it is excellent. But I talked to, I think, 3 different people that weren't Aaron or Carl, and it wasn't excellent. It was really bad, in fact. It was so unhelpful. It was not great. So it's kind of a grab bag, and I think that it makes their customer support really bad on average, because a lot of people are going to have a very bad experience trying to get any kind of information out of them. But I guess if the dice roll in your favor, you can, and then it can be excellent. But it's really nice to see that some of them do actually seem to care and want to help people. So it's good that there is some people that are good in there doing things. I know we all have a lot of generally mixed feelings when it comes to Nintendo or just general big companies as a whole, of just being lifeless, money-sucking pits of terrible. And I think that is generally true in a lot of cases. I'm not saying Nintendo isn't one of those. I think it is, for reference. Don't think I'm defending them. No, I'm just saying I had a good experience, and I'm glad that I can share a good experience that actually works towards progress in the situation. I said this was going to be 3 parts. I apparently lied. We're going into part 4 at some point. They'll get back to me, or they won't. Thank you for being here. Wait! Also like and subscribe. Do those two. I didn't mention it anywhere prior. If you're... I don't know how long this video is going to be. It's probably like a fucking hour or something. If you're here an hour into this goddamn video and you're not subscribed, I